Good morning. Welcome to this session on Destination Success. We'll talk about English today. All of us are teachers of English here, and we've all taught English across classes. We know, for example, that our skills in English are 4: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. LSRW. I think we also are aware that in terms of the development of language, it is listening and speaking that come first, and then reading and writing. Any idea why writing comes at the end? That's right. It is one of the most complex skills compared to the others, perhaps. And if we look really at listening, speaking, and reading, and we try and look at also writing, and we come here to talk about reading, what is reading? It is actually the interaction that you have, and any individual, the reader, with the text that he or she is reading. And reading is, in that sense, an active activity, an active process, because the reader is comprehending what he or she is reading. Comprehension is one of the most fundamental skills. We need it across subjects, across classes, and all through life. Everything that we read, whether it is in class 1 or it is in class 12, or it is perhaps working as a teacher in any sphere of life, it is a fundamental skill. What we read, what we hear, what we listen to, we have to process the information and then come to some kind of a conclusion or understanding. The Destination English program incorporates all these skills of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And we have different programs which are made covering all these skills. They can be integrated, and they are integrated. And they're also being presented in a way that allows a teacher, any one of us in the classroom, to focus on one particular skill. So let's take an example. I'm looking here at English, which is where the entire section of subjects is presented. And I look at class 1, and I go to products here, which is where the entire program is placed. I would like to show this to all of us. The way it is being presented is destination reading for classes KG to 2. As you can see, the others have been similarly put as destination reading, destination 3, destination reading 4. And the idea of calling this destination reading is that our mission is to reach a level of development of skills of reading. And the skills of reading, as we talked about, is to lead us to better comprehension. We also have other elements here. Grammar, as you can see, is from classes 3 to 8. We have practice activities for grammar as well. We have an entire set of products on writing, and we will talk about that. And then we also have a program for the senior classes, English 9 to 12. We will go through each of these separately. At the moment, we will look at the focus on reading. We have called it our most fundamental skill. And if we look at just one element over here, which is a simple story.
Welcome to Destination Reading. Click a button to begin your journey on the path of reading.
What does this program contain? It is meant for classes KG to class 1, and we have different units here. We go from unit 1 to the last unit over here, which is all presented here in order of levels of complexity and difficulty, because it caters to classes KG to class 2. We're going to look at one over here in the middle, which is called Blends and Friends. So if we look at this particular unit, what we find is a number of lessons in this particular unit, and that's how all the units have been presented. Going through any one of them, we get to know what the focus of this particular lesson is. As a teacher, therefore, I have the choice of identifying what I want to use in a classroom, and I can use that. We talked about writing being the most complex of the tasks, of skills, and therefore, if you look at it, the last part in an extended form of writing for the little ones comes really at the end. So let's begin with a story called Owl and the Bluebird.
In the story, Owl and Bluebird, two very different characters work together to solve an interesting problem.
What we notice here is that the child or the children are being oriented or warmed into the story. What is the story about? So that they are ready, in a sense, to read the story and understand it well. And that's an important comprehension strategy. To help our students comprehend well, read well, it's critical to give them some kind of a context as to what they're going to be reading. And here's the story. There is a green button here.
In the story you read, Owl and Bluebird are the main characters.
The button here allows me as a teacher or even any student to play the audio. So the child is listening to a story even as he or she is reading it. We also know that children are very visual and imaginative at this age, and many of our learners are visual learners. So the diagrams there or the pictures there enable children to make meaning more clearly. Importantly, visuals are critical for making the story appealing for students. I'm going to try and show how this could possibly be used in the classroom, along with talking about the different elements of this particular unit. As a teacher in the classroom, this is what we can do. All right, so Bluebird lived in a tree and Owl lived in a tree, different tree close by. Where does Bluebird live? That's right, in a tree. And where does Owl live? Is it the same tree? It's a different tree. Are they near each other, the trees? That's right. So they are close by. And that's what we learned from this story. And we go forward. Please note that the text per screen is kept to just 1 or 2 sentences, maybe 4 sentences, because that is what a child is best able at this age to pick up and read well. I'm not playing the audio button, but as I said to you, if you play the audio button, and this is something that helps our children pick up the right pronunciation.
All day, Owl slept. All night, Bluebird slept.
The audio button is allowing the child to listen to the correct pronunciation, understand how words are to be said, how there's a pause when we have a comma there, or a greater pause, longer pause when we have a full stop. Who sleeps all day? Right, and who sleeps all night? That's right. So do they sleep at the same time? Yes, they sleep at different times. And who tweets? Okay, and what does the owl do? Can someone tell us what tweeting and hooting is? Okay, can you make the sound of tweeting? Tweet, tweet, tweet. That's right. And hooting? Hoot, hoot. Are they different, the two birds? Okay, so far it seems they are different.
All day, Bluebird flew. All night, Owl glided.
So how does Bluebird move? She flies. And what is gliding? Who does the gliding here? Owl. What do you think glided means? Can someone do that? Excellent. That's right, bigger movements. That's the owl. Bigger movements here. Please note how in this very short part of the story, there's so much of listening and speaking going on between the teacher and the students. It is possible for the teacher to also say, well, get in 2 pairs and you can discuss the questions as I ask them and give the answer. And the story moves forward. I have the freedom as a teacher to stop whenever I want to ask the questions of the students. And this becomes, in a sense, speaking and listening and oral comprehension. Because in asking the questions, my children in the class are listening to the question and giving me the answers, and there's a visual text for them as well to refer to. Here's a problem in the story. Who falls from the branch? Why does Bluebird fall from the branch? That's right, there's a storm. And somebody helps Bluebird. How do you know that? Okay, so yes, Owl runs to help the Bluebird. Why do you think the owl does that? Okay, maybe so the Bluebird does not get hurt. What else? Okay, that's interesting. So that the Bluebird is able to perhaps make sure that she is not going to lose her nest. Is that what you said? Let's come to that story. As I said to you, the audio button is available. I'm not playing it right now. What happened? Bluebird's tree is blown over. And now what happens to Bluebird? Right, could not go home. So, what? Okay, yes, owl says, come live in my tree. What's the problem? They're good friends. But what's the problem? All right, they can't sleep. Why is that so? Right, they have different time of sleeping. And here we have a problem. And notice that there is a bulb here.
What did you think Owl and Bluebird should do to solve their problem?
So, let's get into groups. Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, Group 4. You're sitting in groups, I can see that. You have a minute to discuss and think of a solution to this problem. Is everyone clear of the problem? Owl and Bluebird are good friends. They are staying close by on the same tree and they can't sleep because they have different sleep times and there's a noise. So what can they do? Now the teacher here, with the help of a digital content, the audio button available, can do a number of exercises. One is what I just showed. If the focus is only on speaking and listening, then one could be that the teacher plays a story and the children, after every section of listening to the audio, do the echo reading. They now read together in pairs or in groups, so they'll learn how to read fluently and they enjoy that part in terms of development of their skills of speaking. There's another way, which is what we just did, where they're listening to the story and I'm asking questions here as a teacher and the children are answering those questions. So a lot of speaking and listening and conversation skills are developing, and importantly, because it's being done collectively in the classroom, no one feels conscious. As you can see, kids have answered in different parts of the room. And now they're working together in a group to talk about a solution. So fine, at the end of a minute, I ask for possible answers. I ask every group to give the answer and the children gave their little solutions here in 1 or 2 sentences. And I say, yes, that's right. So that's an interesting solution you've given. Okay. And you have another one. What does the story tell us? Is that a good solution? You think they can sleep now comfortably? And can they be friends? Okay. Let's see what happens. Is it a happy ending? Are they all happy being together, the two of them? How do you know that? Right. The word glad tells us that they are good to be friends and the neighbors now. And what are they doing together? Right, they're having tea and biscuits. And are they helping each other? Okay, so while they're helping each other, are they different or are they same? They're still different. Okay. Now, once we've done this story, and through different activities that we just did, it took us about 10 or 12 minutes to do that. We can then move into a comprehension exercise.
The story you read,
Owl and Bluebird are the main characters. These two characters are quite different. Can you remember how they are different? These labels give information about the characters. You must find out who each label describes. Drag all the labels that tell what Owl does to this column. Drag all the labels that tell what Bluebird does to this column. Click OK when you're ready to check your work.
It's important to note that this is a quick exercise of remembrance of the story. It's comprehension at the level of recall, of remembering. Notice how the question was phrased. There are 2 characters in a story. They are different. Can you remember what it is? It's very encouraging, very invitational, encouraging students to give the answer. Very clear demarcation of what each character does and clear instructions being given in a well-paced out way for students at this age. So what happens? Let's try and do it. We know that in a classroom there are about 45 students, sometimes even 50. We know we have a syllabus to cover and we have lack of time. So we can do it collectively in the classroom by asking students for the answers. This could be collaborative in groups, they can give the answers, or individually. So if I look at tweeted, who does to tweet? Who tweeted?
Tweeted.
Okay, and hooted? Okay. Who hunts mice? Here? Okay. Here.
Hunted mice.
Okay, who's slept all night? Here? Here.
Slept all night.
Not sure? Let's see what happens. 8 insects?
8 insects.
And this one goes? Sure. Okay, and the bluebird then?
Slept all day. Oops, not correct, but good try.
Notice the feedback that's given when a child or students don't do something correctly. It's a very gentle way of telling the child, oh, well, it's not quite correct, but it's a good try. So it means I need to go back as a learner and see what mistake I made. Now, what mistake have we made? Okay, so it's owl who actually is sleeping during the day.
Slept all day. Slept all.
Is it okay now?
That's correct. All the characteristics are in the right spot. Click the Go On arrow to go to the next activity.
So in the classes that I taught, and we've used this particular story, which the children enjoyed very much, what is it that we did? Because you're talking of the integration of skills. We just saw reading, listening and speaking happening. We saw collaboration taking place. We saw the collective work of students with the teacher, that's me. And maybe what we can do now is to go for a different kind of quick exercise. So we have the different characters, and what's stopping me from asking students? All right, we have 3 sentences from this, and we say that the owl, because they're called owl and bluebird, that's the name of the character. We say owl hooted, owl slept all day, and I say that owl, okay, hunted mice. So from these words given to us, from hearing the story, we've got 3 short sentences on owl. That is the character of this particular creature. And I say, all right, can you in groups quickly now write 3 sentences using this and what you heard about the story, in the story, write 3 sentences on what the bluebird did. As I phrase my questions, I need to help my students use the same, write it well, because I use the same kind of phrasing as used in the story, the past tense, and what the bluebird did. Now my students who need help have this bank of words, and students who don't need help will go ahead and write the 3 sentences, and they get a minute to do it. We time every activity because we know we have a lesson of just about 35-40 minutes, and so we time the activities, and that's what they quickly do. I can go around as a teacher and see what each person is writing. I can ask questions there to clear doubts if I'm not sure what they're writing, and maybe give them a few tips about what they've written is being correct or not. And then we can all discuss what everyone has written. Maybe 1 or 2 can explain what they have, shared what they have written. We can write them on the board. So we have a quick writing activity based on comprehension, based on some kind of help being given in the form of words for helping all children be able to write comfortably. I'm going to ask all of you, do you get to know from the story whether bluebird and owl are she or they are he? Any idea? We can go back to the story, and that's where the digital content helps us. So we have the story here. I can play it any time in the classroom that I want.
In the story, owl and bluebird.
So, do we get to know if bluebird or owl, girl or boy? And let's go through it again. Do I get to know something from here? That's right. Bluebird fell from her branch. So she's a she. Okay. What about owl? And I can play the entire story. And what we find is that it's not mentioned anywhere whether owl is a he or a she. So what can we say? We can always say owl hooted An owl, it tweeted, and it hunted mice. Bluebird we know is a she, so we'll have to keep saying she did this and she did this and she did this. Now, we can take this story forward in any way that we want to. We can talk about whether owl is helpful or whether bluebird is a good friend and so forth. What does the product help us do? As we said, we have these stories here, we have this comprehension exercise, and there are a number of activities here. We discussed this one right now, we did it. We are not going into this part. At the moment, I'm focusing on comprehension skills based on the story. I don't need to look at this either. And here is something.
Imagine owl and bluebird meet a new friend, eagle. What kinds of things do you think eagle would do? Here are some words that describe things eagle might do. Use some of the words in the list to tell what eagle does.
So here is an extended writing task or activity for students to do. And we're enabling all our students to be able to write, because writing is a complex task. We've agreed on that. So we have here a bank of words to help our students write. Just a few words to describe what a new character, eagle, would do if he or she were to join the owl and bluebird. And again, quickly, give the students 3-4 minutes. They can work together in pairs or groups and they can write it and we can discuss it. And we have a whole bank here of words that we can put on the board and say, eagle does this, eagle does this, eagle does this, eagle does this, right? So the children are comprehending, speaking and listening, and writing is all integrated. As a teacher, I'm facilitating that learning. Note how, as a teacher, I did not give them the answers of owl being a he or a she. We just went back to the story. So that's part of the comprehension, developing the comprehension skills of children, helping them read closely, reread, to be able to understand fully. And the digital content allows us to do that effectively. Why? Because it's all there on the screen to quickly ask all the students to look at it. And the visual impact of something being looked at collectively like this always enables students to perhaps A, be more engaged and perhaps locate answers more clearly. So this is where we have the writing task coming at the end. Does anybody want to say what else can be done with this? Any ideas? Having got the words of what eagle does or did, what do you think we can do with this? All right, so we can write, yes, some 3-4 sentences maybe on the eagle, having got what we want to do. And please note, students are not expected, all of them, they're not bound to use these words. Those who want to can, those who don't want to need not. They can make the eagle a he or a she or an it, not saying what it is. And what else can be done? Okay, so sentences writing, you can draw. That's an interesting point. So you can have an eagle. You can draw that as well. Okay, what else? Interesting. So you can take the story forward. That if eagle was to come and join them, what is going to happen in the story, right? A lot of discussion there, a lot of speaking and listening happening here, a lot of imagination coming into play. And the writing can be taken based on that as well. Now that was the digital part, but to make sure that our work, for our students becomes, and I said to you, this is a product that you can look at, explore through the product itself, but we can also explore this in terms of the classes. The same story will appear for us in class 1 if I choose to go class-wise. So let's look at both those. Now notice here we have phonics, we have reading, we have writing, there's grammar, and there's a fun activity as well. Since we're talking about reading, let's just focus on that. Here is where we have owl and bluebird. It's a story that we just saw. I'm focusing on comprehension. This is a story here. We just did this activity digitally. And we now have some comprehension task, which is also to do with some coloring and drawing, is again based on the characters. That's available for us as a teacher to use when we wish to use that. So here is for children a crayon box character. They can write the name of the character. They can write here the qualities as we discussed when we talked of the eagle. And helping students to do that is this. You have an example here for for the student. And the teacher can draw it in the class if that's what the teacher wants, that this is what I'm expecting you to do. We also know that teachers and are partners with parents in this particular task of learning. So there is something here where we can ask our parents to also participate in the entire exercise of building comprehension skills of story writing, story reading, and understanding stories. Suggestions for what we can do, asking parents to help with reading. And do we need to give some kind of suggestion on the reading list? Well, we have something like this, which is available. You can give that to your students. It must be there in the library as well. We can refer to that as well. If you notice, it's beginning readers as well. And there are some strategies given for parents on how they can do it for class 1 students to make it easy for reading. So that's what we have for class 1. And this entire program, as we talked about, is developed in a calibrated, in a systematic way across classes. So if we had to look, let's say, at the destination reading, which is for class 3 to 5, a senior class compared to class 1, again the same structure.
Welcome to Destination Reading. Click a button to continue your journey on the path of reading.
It's always welcoming students to the program so that they feel encouraged and invited to it. It's nothing like, now do it, but here it is, welcome to the program. Notice that we have more units here because these are senior classes compared to class 1 and 2. I can roll over each of these and I know then what each type of topic I'm going to look at. So if we just look at, what do you think this is going to be about? Okay, past and present, so it's historical fiction, as it talks about. What do you think this is going to be? Will this be a story? Do you think it's going to be, okay, could be information, right? Okay. Notice the number of genres. There's poetry, there is fairy tales, there is informational historical fiction here. An Amazing Life is a biography, right? This is an adventure story. Some to do with fantasy, out of this world. This is a mystery. And so we're covering a number of genres here. An African folktale, a variety of countries as well, true to life, so realistic stories. Wilderness adventure, that is an adventure in the city. This is going to be a visit to an aquarium, could be a report, could be information. Tall tales, a different kind of genre here. So there's a lot of variety here. Science fiction coming in as well. So even for students in classes 3 to 5 who love or perhaps don't even love reading, we're trying to encourage them to read a variety of genres, the whole exposure here. Let's just look at this one, the food for thought. What do you think is going to be about, food for thought? Okay, maybe some philosophy, as you said, all right. Again, the same kind of structure here. For easy, look at the journey. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's all worked out and structured for a teacher to look at. I'm looking at it from the product point of view to help us understand that this is a program that is calibrated, it is structured, it integrates the 4 key skills of English. As a teacher, I have the freedom to use a resource in the way I want to. At the same time, the product has a structure which I can follow to save myself the time if I want to as to what I need to do. And this one is actually an article.
This is a magazine article called Build a Pyramid of Good Foods. A magazine often includes several different articles, usually by different authors.
Now we can read this together in the classroom. It's again a comprehension exercise. It's a passage. We might choose to just read this and enjoy it for the pure purpose of reading it. I may choose to use it for helping my students learn the skills of listening, speaking, and reading as we talked about, and our focus is on reading. But we're talking about the integration of the 4 skills. Here is a bulb. It is an enabler.
What kind of protein foods do you eat?
Of asking students questions that require them to think, the higher order thinking skills questions. Reflect and come up with some answers based, of course, on the passage given to them, always enabling them. So we can read this and notice again how the child is being told, think of a pyramid, healthy eating, bring in the values of life skills here, values of good eating habits, which we know children today are perhaps not doing as well as you want them to do. Once we read this particular passage, I'm going to look at what 2 is about. I'm going to what 3 is about. Now, if I just look at this, here's a short exercise on the passage.
Welcome to The Choice is Right. It's the fast-paced game where I ask the questions and you choose the answers. Choose carefully and you could be the next Choice is Right champion. It's time to examine the food pyramid. A food pyramid suggests how much food from each food group we should eat each day. Use the food pyramid to answer my questions. All right, contestant. Now here's your first question. Which food group is the biggest? Click the button next to the correct answer.
This is a quick game. And nowhere are we being told this is testing your comprehension. Kids, have you understood the passage? It's fun. You've read the passage. Interestingly, this is picking up just the image or the visual or a diagram, because comprehension is not just necessarily and only the long written text. We read brochures, we have signs, we have posters that we're reading, we have quick information available to us, maybe a short kind of timetable that we look at. And in today's world of Twitter and Instagram, we know that we have short bites of information as well. So here's a different kind of comprehension passage, a visual. All the data given to the child, we can do it collectively. We can do it, as we said earlier, if we have the facility, let's say, of the students accessing this from home. They can do this at home and come back and tell you what they thought about it. In the computer lab, the teacher can actually do the scoring as well, looking at their answers. So it's efficient, easy for teachers, and fun for kids, of course, and that's very important. And the child answers here.
Not really, but try again.
So not really. There's no categorical no, you're wrong. Try again. And we move forward to this entire group of questions.
And your next question is, the meat and beans group is the same size as which other group?
This is a short set of exercises of quick recall questions on the passage or the diagram that the students are looking at. And I think we know this. We know that the comprehension questions based on a passage always move from the simple to the more complex ones. So if we're looking at it from this point of view, this is a quick remembrance of what we did and what we just read. Let's look at this.
A food pyramid suggests how much food from each food group we should eat each day. How do you think your classmates' eating habits compare to the suggestions in the food pyramid? Write down your prediction. Then, write at least 3 questions that would help you find out what your classmates eat during a typical day.
It's a comprehension question. Or do you think this is just a writing task? Anybody? Oh, okay. So that's interesting. So you're saying it's both. It is based on the passage that the students have read, all right? And there is some writing. Now, is this an extended writing task? What do you think is happening here? Okay, it could be both, because they're writing a prediction, could be in 2 sentences, could be 1 sentence, could be just a word. And they're asking students to go back to the pyramid, which is good eating habits. So what do you think your classmates would be doing? And then now write the questions that you think you're going to ask them. So what you're getting here is, the students can write the prediction, short space available or small space, so short answer expected here, and then the kind of question. So again, a different kind of comprehension-based activity for students. It's not just a run-on typical one about question, answer, question, answer. You have a variety of such tasks on comprehension exercises in the product. This is a magazine article. We just discussed that. And I'll just come back to that in just a minute as to what's happening here in this particular program. But one important thing to understand for all of us, and I think this is what, as teachers, we often forget. In class, all too often when we do comprehension, we read a story together in the classroom as we did out on Bluebird, and we ask our students to go and attempt all these questions given at the end of that passage. Classwork, homework, test. Do we find our students are all able to answer questions on a given story that we've read together in the classroom? Or do you think they struggle and sometimes don't give you the right answers? Okay. Why do you think that's so? Well, one of the things that a lot of people are talking about, these are research-based theory discussions and educationists, what happens across actually all schools and classes, we don't teach our children the strategies for effective comprehension. Think back if ever you were taught this in school, and think if you do that in your classes. I know that perhaps I never started in this particular way when I was teaching my students. And what we realize is that our students read and read and read, and they mechanically answer questions, but perhaps they don't really have the skills of reading. And we've said that comprehension, reading, is a fundamental skill across classes, across subjects throughout life. This particular program helps students to learn a variety of comprehension strategies, the ways to read a passage, to be able to then understand it well. And not just for answering questions well, but really for the whole idea of improving the comprehension skill. So if we look at this particular program, I'm only on one particular unit right now. Here is a skill that's being given to me, which is a sequence of steps in a procedure. And before that, what do we find over here? We find that there is something here called the focus on a chart.
This is a chart. A chart has information in rows and columns. Rows go across the chart. Columns go up and down. Click the green button to learn more about charts.
So we're decoding what a chart is, which is one form of writing.
The title of the chart tells you what the chart is about.
And therefore each element of the genre becomes clear.
Has a heading. The heading tells you what type of information you'll find in that column.
This is important. To understand a genre, to understand its features, its elements, always helps students to be able to comprehend better. This is again a strategy of explaining the genre features to help students read better. Here's another strategy. Here's a fruit cream, and I'm not going to talk about that, but here is something to do with sequencing.
Written directions always have a series of steps to follow to make or build something. The directions for fruit cream are all mixed up here. Let's put them back in order. Drag the sentence that comes first to the number 1 square.
Let me ask a question here. Is this writing? Is this speaking and listening? Is this reading? Is this reading, since our focus is on reading? All right. So what are the students reading here? Sections of the text. Do different sections of the text make one particular passage or one particular unit? All right. What is being asked of students over here? To put them into a sequence. Absolutely. So is that comprehension? They have to read. They have to work out which goes first, which goes second, third, and fourth. Okay? You think kids can do this? Let's try, we can do it. And let's see what happens. So again, this is an activity on comprehension using the strategy of sequencing. And it's an easy way of doing it because when we read this, we have what are called these markers. So first, and we start with that, And we bring it
First,
here.
get all the ingredients for the recipe. Good job! Drag the next step to the correct square.
Notice the audio, speaking and listening happening here. Students can do this collectively in the classroom with the teacher in pairs. Feedback is given if you're right, if you've got something wrong. So let's try this. If we put...
Finally, serve the fruit cream into small bowls and enjoy. Not this time. Try it again.
Immediate feedback, enabling a child not to finish the whole thing and then being told, oh, you're wrong. But immediate feedback at every step to enable the child to do it. I missed something, and I did that deliberately.
This is a recipe for fruit cream. A recipe is a set of instructions that shows you how to make something from a list of ingredients.
Through a real-life situation, the students are getting an understanding of the sequencing on which the next activity that we just did is based. At every step in the program, there is always an example, there's instruction with the help of an example, there is practice, and there is application. And when the student is being asked to do something, just before that, there's a lot of enabling that's happening. So we had the word bank in Owl and Bluebird. Here, there's an example given to the students, and then they do the activity on the sequencing part of it. Now, as they learn this, their comprehension becomes clearer because they've got step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. But they're also improving their writing skills because now they learn about chronology and order. Have you found this? Some of our students can speak very well, but they often can't write well. You know, jumble sentences, words mixed up. And we need to enable and help our students develop the skill of reading in order and also, importantly, write in order. So it's integrated, as I said, this particular program. Now, if I were to just look at this particular part, notice that I could skip as to where I wanted to go. This is sequencing. We just talked about this. This is grammar. We're not interested in that at the moment. And here is...
Recipes are procedures or step-by-step directions that tell you how to make or do something. Click the green button to learn more about recipes.
So if I click on the green button, I will learn about the steps involved in writing any procedure. And if I look at the last part, here is the writing task.
A step-by-step procedure explains how to do something. Use the spinner to choose a topic. Then write a step-by-step procedure for that topic. Making a butter and jam sandwich.
Note that there's a choice given to the child. It's connected to the child's real life, nothing difficult. Something the child can do, may be doing. And there has been an entire process to this extended writing task. We did the activities. So the process of writing is followed here in a very encouraging, easy to do way before the product appears. Let's just talk about this a bit to understand how this particular program has been worked out very carefully by teachers, by experts, with the help of some important research on language development. And NCERT, CBSE, the NCF 2005, ICSE, all the boards, whether they're international or national, are today talking about the importance of focusing on the process and then the product. So even in mathematics, CBSE will give marks to the child on the steps of the maths problem and not just look at the answer. And why do you think this is so important, the process? Whether it's of reading, of comprehension, of writing, of being able to speak and listen. These are skills. We are today in the 21st century talking about enabling our students or equipping them rather with skills of effective learning. So we need to help our students get the process to come to the product. And again, please note how it's a step-by-step procedure for that topic. The child is being given some help as 1, 2, 3, 4. In the fruit cream that we saw, step 1, step 2, step 3 was given to the child, and so the student could do that as well. So the writing task comes really at the end. Like with Owl and Bluebird, you also have PDFs over here, which are tasks that the students can do comfortably at home or in the classroom. So we have 2 or 3 ways of looking at the program. I'm looking at the product. I also show the class-wise way of doing it and the variety of things that we have. This is for our little students of classes 1 to 5. We have the same kind of destination reading program for 6 to 8, which is a senior class, and so it moves on to destination English 9 to 12.